Now for something completely different. My name is Kenorah, and on the couch with me we have Artsy Freak
Hello.
and Pancake.
Hello, hello.
And this time, welcome to Hades, a Greek mythology-based roguelike developed by Supergiant, creators of such games as Transistor, Bastion, and Pyre. Today I'll be running a category called Showo, Shield One Weapon Only, which essentially bottles down to completing a run, completing 4 consecutive runs, each with the different aspects of the shield. For those aware of the game's roguelike-based progression, this is my Mirror of Night, which we'll go into a little bit more detail sort of as the run progresses. I've got my keepsakes now properly set. Let us get going. We're going to start off with the Zag Shield. And we're going to work our way down to Chaos, onto Zeus, onto Beowulf. Time starts when I click Begin Escape. So I'll give a countdown. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go.
This one's for you, mother.
Alright. That's a good start.
Yo, charge shot.
So,
Alright.
the core basis of this game is you run around, you smack things, they respawn, and you aim to escape the underworld. You do that by getting assistance from the main 8 Olympian gods. They provide you support by giving you these what we call boons. Especially the ones on the left will be your core boons. The 4 core boons are attack, special, cast, which are these little, which is like your little projectile shots. If you
Red thing shooting out.
say that again,
I said the little red things are shooting
yeah,
out.
red for now. And your dash. There is a slot for the core, which is sort of like each god's like special power. Isn't quite a core boon, but is still very powerful.
Seeing multiple Artemis early, Artemis gives crit chance, which allows for big numbers, like the one you just saw on the screen there. And Hunter's Mark basically means when you crit, it will put an effect on other enemies that makes you more likely to get crits on them, which is good because more damage.
And each of the weapons has certain dataless hammers that allow you to upgrade your weapon, allow it to function in a slightly different, more powerful way. And in terms of big numbers, the hammer that Kenorah got, Charge Shot, also helps with giving those big numbers as it upgrades that charged attack.
Yeah, charge shot is the universal good shield hammer. You always want it.
Always want it. So how hammers work? You typically get 2 in a run, with the option of getting an anvil, which I'll explain in a little bit. You get 1 potential hammer in the first 2 biomes, Tartarus and Asphodel. So you can only get 1 in those first 2, and then once you get the first, you won't see another one until the 3rd area of the game, Elysium. And then in the final biome, you have a chance to get an anvil, which will take one of your hammers, get rid of it completely, and give you 2 random hammers in return, which is a gamble, but can sometimes pay off.
In this scenario, we will almost certainly not be doing
Oh,
that.
absolutely not.
You don't want to risk losing charge shot. Here we see Palm of Power. Palms essentially strengthen the boons you already have, which each boon scales differently. Some scale really well, some not as much. Crit typically isn't the biggest palm scaler, but it's still something nice to have. Just a bit of extra damage or crit chance. Just you're never upset to have it.
Right, more damage is more damage. It may not be as much more damage as we want, but it's still not less.
So we spoke a little bit earlier about aspects, and what that means exactly is that there are 6 different weapons in the game. There's a sword, a shield, a spear, a bow, some fists, and a rail, which is essentially just a gun. Each of these aspects have 4... Nope. Each of these weapons have 4 aspects, which try and, like, change pretty drastically how the weapon plays in its entirety. And so they each have unique bonuses that you can rank up individually. We do play, for speedrunning purposes, we do play on a maxed out save file, so everything is maxed out completely and don't have to worry about unlocking anything, which is completely available on the speedrunning speedrun.com side of resources. How Zag Shield's aspect bonus works is that it increases the damage of your basic attack, which, while useful, we did get Charge Shot, which affects our Bull Rush, which is sort of like you attack and hold, and you normally would charge forward with the shield, but hammers, which drastically change, or try and change how your weapon functions. Charge Shot kind of replaces that charge with just a projectile that does a lot of damage, which that hammer alone kind of immediately negates any bonus that Zag Shield would give, which is a bit unfortunate, but Charge Shot is just kind of that good.
Not that unfortunate because you have charge shot.
Yeah, that's true.
Yes. Yeah, I do see someone mentioning the heat we take. Heat is a difficulty scale where it allows you, once you start getting pretty good at Hades, it allows you to make the game hard again. But there are some things that actually make the game faster. So we have enabled extreme measures too, which for the first fight doesn't really affect it much at all. But for the Lerny fight at the end of Asphodel, the room changes put the secondary heads that you'll see when we get to that fight closer together. So it is, I would say, about a 10-second time save overall. We take force overtime, either 1 or 2, depending on the aspect, depending how well it can handle it, which makes enemies faster, but also makes them spawn in quicker. And if enemies spawn in quicker, you can kill them quicker. And finally, for real-time runs like this one, we enable tight deadline, the timer. It gets rid of the survival rooms at Tartarus, which are 45 seconds of just sitting there. We do not want 45 seconds of just sitting there. We are trying to go fast.
We also did take a Chaos Gate there a little bit ago. So Chaos is the primordial god that created everything, and they offer boons that are a little bit of pros and cons. You take a curse actually for a few rooms that makes the game a little bit harder, but then you get a very powerful reward. And so what Kenorah took is they're dealing with some bombs being thrown at them by enemies, a lot more bombs than we normally see. But after we have cleared these encounters with those 3 encounters with bombs, we will get extra attack damage, which will be quite nice.
There are 3 Asphodel mini bosses you can see. 2 of them are pretty quick. That one is not quick.
Is Chamber 22, which is unfortunate, but the best side of unfortunate. So
there's a set number of chambers in each biome, and the Chamber 22 is the last combat chamber in Asphodel, and the rooms get harder and therefore longer generally as you go through a biome. So a regular combat Chamber 22 would take a decent amount of time anyway, so seeing Barge, the slow mini-boss, in Chamber 22, not as bad as getting it earlier in Asphodel.
Yeah, and to that point, it gets to the point where Chamber 33 and 34, the last 2 in Elysium, you get a bad combat in them, they can cost you so much time that no matter how good your pace is, if you're going for a record, you get a bad 34, it's just over.
Here we see those grouped together Lerny heads Pancake was talking about as one of the benefits from the packed the heat that we take.
Almost
Alright,
take a DD on Lorny, but barely don't. Not paying the Lorny tax.
Are we really gaining if we don't take a Death Defiance to
Yeah, it's an invalid run. Gotta start over.
Oh, well, no, it's just a shame.
So going into Elysium, switching keepsakes, which, by the way, I don't think we've explained keepsakes, but they give you various bonuses. We often take ones that guarantee we see a certain god in our god pool. Like we started with Artemis keepsake to make sure our first boon was Artemis. Here we are taking Hades keepsake, which gives us a call ability that it's going to give us a fair bit of damage whenever it activates. It was so good in 1.0 they had to nerf it moving on, so it's pretty strong.
So there's a question in chat about taking the palm trinket, by which they're referring to the keepsake that we get from our mom, that gives palms into random boons. But before we explain that, I think we should explain how rude Hermes was just then.
Yeah, the Hermes has a couple of really good things they can offer, and here we have Hyper Sprint, so we're really hoping to see Rush Delivery, which gives a damage increase based on your bonus movement speed, and Hyper Sprint gives you 100% movement speed after you dash. So that combo gives you a lot of damage. But Hermes decided to not even offer anything else that was good. So, seeing taking Ferocious Guard there.
Yeah, there was some potential options there.
Yeah, the Sudden Rush is also pretty good.
Yeah.
We get Butterfly Ball as our mini-boss. It's the shorter mini-boss. We are happy to see that.
Yeah.
See,
so
it is
question
gone.
Yeah. Goodbye, Butterfly Ball. The question that was earlier about the palm trinket. There are certain runs where taking what we call mom palm can be a good strat, but this isn't really one of. Generally, when you take mom palm, it's because you're playing normally Haribo, which is a weapon that uses its cast, and casts tend to scale really well with palms. But when you're not playing a weapon or an aspect that is relying on its cast a lot, it's not. Mom palm generally isn't as useful as being able to guarantee a certain god or the extra damage that you get from the keepsake we have on now.
Yeah, a lot of that is if you want to take Mom Palm early, it's a high roll because it means you're relying on getting the gods you want by luck. And if you take it late, you're probably going to have a lot of boons, so then it's a high roll hoping that it hits the boon you want it to hit. So
yeah,
it is a potential strategy. It isn't, I think, the ideal strategy for a marathon run. If you were going for a record time, it might be an option to consider. But here,
it's likely
I will.
if you're running Mom Palm, you're likely to be resetting a lot to get the gods you want in
Seeing Patroclus here. What chamber is it? 33 Patty is very nice. Skipping that 33 combat I mentioned earlier, that can be very long.
So this is the first instance of a story room. Sorry. I'll let you.
No, go ahead, Kenorah. Okay. So each of the biomes has what we call story rooms, where we get to see a friend. And so the friend that we get to see in Elysium is Patroclus, boyfriend of Achilles. And sometimes you get to see both of them when you visit.
This is official title.
Yeah, I mean, Patroclus offers. I mean, it's not just Achilles' boyfriend. No one is defined by their relationships, but it's part of what we love about them. Story rooms are great because they, in-game time races, or runs, they completely stop the timer. But even in real time, you're not fighting anything. At any time that you're not fighting, you're going fast. And they also offer some pretty powerful benefits as well. From Patroclus, you get what we took was a item that will give us more attack damage for a significant amount of attack damage for a significant. Oh, you took Hydrolite. I'm sorry. Okay. So we didn't take that, but you can get a thing that upgrades your attack. We instead took an item that will heal us a significant amount every room. And the other option is
what?
So I think he was waiting for Bullhorn, and then Bullhorn never happened.
Okay. In the classic marathon words, I have never seen that.
I have never seen that. Yeah. So usually Theseus, renowned for getting the support of the gods himself, when you knock him into phase 2, which is by half health, he usually summons the power of one of the gods that you haven't interacted with in the run, and has different attacks depending on who he calls upon. He does also have duo attacks with his partner Asterius, the Minotaur that he fought on Legend. And he was...
And by partner, we mean partner.
And so I believe he was trying too hard for that duo attack instead of actually calling upon the power of the gods, and so we never did that.
Called upon the gods, and the god said, nah.
Which is a very understandable response.
I would have liked them
Really
for them to do that more often. Personally, that was great. Didn't have to dodge anything.
That's new speed tech. Post that in speed tech. Alrighty, so right now we are in Styx, and when you're in Styx, there are 5 tunnels, and we are looking for a satyr sack in one of the tunnels. It can be anywhere from the 2nd tunnel to the 5th tunnel. It is luck. We just pray that it's the 2nd and not the 5th.
It is luck that is significantly in your favor. You can never get it in the 1st tunnel of any run, no matter what anyone tries to tell you. But you have about a 54-55% chance to get it on the 2nd tunnel that you visit. So it is a coin flip, but it's a coin flip that's ever so slightly weighted in your favor. There are still plenty of runs that do get more than that, which we might see here. We might not.
Kenorah, did you take a...
I took a mini-boss.
Okay, you did. Sorry. Someone in chat was saying 2-sack mentality, and I got concerned. But it would have paid off.
We did get the 2-sack, which is, she'd love to
see a
see.
1-sack, 2-sack, red sack, blue sack.
So in Styx, we intentionally take the mini-boss doors, especially on the 1st chamber, because it is a lot faster to kill a mini-boss, especially with the builds that we create with each weapon. It is faster to kill a mini-boss than to kill the respawning waves of enemies in a normal room. The 2-sec mentality, as aforementioned, would be to try and win that gamble of the 54%, go into a non-mini-boss room, and try your luck at getting the sack in then, rather than taking another mini-boss to play it safe. I wanted the health, and
also
normal
this
rooms
is
are scary.
Also, this is a marathon run. We're not going for any crazy times here. We don't need the 2-sack mentality.
We're not going to be
Even that,
restarting if we don't get what we want.
It depends on the weapon. Like, if there's something I really want on a 2-sack, I might take it.
I mean, if you're on Beowulf and you don't have Mirage Shot yet,
yeah,
I would maybe make that play. Taking a
now
Death
we see that
Defiance
first piece
there.
of
So we have 3 of these symbols you can see right above the health bar. You'll notice one is missing. Our Death Defiance is basically you can die a couple times and you get revived at 50% health. You have to unlock them through the Mirror of Night, which was mentioned earlier. But with 3 Death Defiances, you're not gonna die, most likely. Knock on wood.
especially not on shield,
I believe
which is typically a pretty safe weapon because it does have the ability to block.
because it is a shield.
Yeah, sometimes it happens. Stuff like that happens. That's another one.
You do have to actually be blocking.
That's
to,
$15,
to
Nora.
Yep, that is another. Yeah. Alright, so that is run number 1 complete.
An 18-minute Zag Shield, not the fastest run, but
Under 20 minutes is still, like, decent.
getting it done,
Yeah.
yes.
Especially on a,
We never saw
Zag Shield
the,
isn't the fastest aspect either.
yes.
Joy.
Yeah.
I agree, Hades. Joy is what I'm feeling.
Nora, were you going... I don't think your entire build came together the way you were wanting there.
Zag Shield
Probably
doesn't really
like
have a build, is the problem.
Fair.
It's just Artie attacks, charge shot. That's it. So, like, technically I got it.
I saw you took Aphrodite at one point. Thought
It
you
was
might
like to maybe
not
get
hard
Heartren, but Heartren's always a nice to have, not a run definer. Oh boy, now we move on to Chaos Shield.
All right, so for those who are not familiar with the Hades community, we have the big goal in-game time record hunting. The goal is to get getting a sub 7-minute IGT, and we had a community goal of having all aspects reach that point. Chaos was the very last to do it because Chaos Shield is not the fastest.
And for those of you who maybe like paid attention to Hades speedrunning a long time ago but haven't checked in a while, may be confused to hear us saying that because Chaos used to be, I believe it was the meta for a while. It has not been meta for a long time because it was too good and got nerfed.
So
Partially the nerfs, and I think partially game knowledge change as well.
Yeah, game knowledge
That's fair,
changed. Meta builds were developed. I would say weapons came out, but really the only weapon that came out was Gilga, and
And that's not one of the fast ones.
No. So you'll see Kenorah already has. So we have that attack from Artemis again, giving us some crit, and then we also put Zeus on our special. So when we throw out these multiple shields that the Chaos special throws out, each of them will zap folks and the folks around them when it hits, because Zeus's special thing that Zeus does is lightning, as you might expect.
yeah. So Utsi kind of briefly mentioned it. Chaos Shield's gimmick is that every time you do the bull rush mechanic, which is again that sort of charge and hold, I can get another mini-boss. I want charge shot.
Choices.
After every time you do that charge attack, your next special, usually your special throws out one shield like that, but on Chaos Shield it throws out 5 in a cone. Explosive return's also
Explosive
good.
return is good. We're using our special a lot, so return special dealing damage around us is going to be nice. This is the only aspect where you're really using your shield special.
Not hit both the bottom. So what we saw Kenorah use there was we have these. So some of the characters in the game give what we call companions to Kenorah that allows them, well, not to Kenorah, to Zagreus, that allows Zag to then summon that person to help out with a fight. So what we saw there was Kenorah summoning Meg to help out with those bombers. Unfortunately, did not hit both of the bombers with Meg.
I missed you.
And we gifted Boldy, meaning this is now a blessed run.
And gifted the shade. Which when we get back to Elysium, I'll explain the shade a little bit more in detail.
So the room Kenorah was just in is one of the other story rooms, like we were talking about. So that is our friend Sisyphus in Tartarus. Sisyphus is doomed to roll a stone up a hill for eternity for committing some pretty not okay crimes against the gods. But in this game, he's become a much more chill person and is friendly and gives us money. Can also give us healing or.
He can give you other things.
He can also give you two other things that we never.
He nothing. It's money. It's 100 obols. That's it.
So that Meg keepsake, where she comes down and helps you out, kind of a little bit obviously enough, can't be done in the fight against Meg herself. She may be one of your partners. It's a relationship, a healthy, communicated relationship, but a relationship that has some. And here is where you start to see some of Chaos Shield's flaws. While it can do with normal chambers kind of well, doesn't do bosses very good.
His bossing is abysmal.
Yeah. earlier we described, or Kenorah described Hades as a roguelike, and I mean, sure, but we all know that Hades is really just a dating sim. That's the real point of the game.
God, I hate Furies on Chaos Shield.
Yeah.
Like, it's Furies and Hades in particular that really make me dislike Chaos Shield.
This task was some sort of shorty. Might help. Exactly what I need.
Taking the money keepsake there, it gives you money, and rewarded with picking up that Death Defiance that we lost, playing it a bit safe. Don't want to die, that would be bad.
That would be.
Dying is slow, and unlike our Hollow Knight commentary that we provided, dying is just pretty much always slow in Hades, rarely fast.
Ain't no shade skips in Hades. Although there are shades.
Oh, there is. Yeah,
There are
when you don't
shades.
say- when you don't say hi to the good shade, that's a shade skip.
So shade skips are not optimal in marathons at least.
Oh, and here we see the Asphodel story room. It is Eurydice. Oh, spoilers. It is Eurydice, the the Dryad, alongside her partner, Orpheus, the Muse. No, Bard. She's his muse.
Yeah, Barber. Yeah. So Eurydice offers you a few different ways to upgrade your boons. She can either improve the rarity of the boons that you see in the future, improve the rarity of 2 random boons that you already have, or add a level like you would get from a Palm of Power to 3 of the boons.
4.
3 of the random boons. That you
4.
4, sorry.
Okay.
Centaur heart.
Hunting plates incoming. I mean, that would be fun.
If we see it. So sort of like earlier we mentioned, we take shops, because... Oh my god, another barge. Okay. There are faster mini-bosses in Asphodel, I promise.
It's just barge.
We take shops because like, they often contain boons, and boons good. But also they're a free room because they up that chamber count, but they don't have any enemies in them, other than the potential enemy, but you'll have to wait until Saturday for that.
You'd also have to donate money, so
And donate money,
when
yes.
when the time comes, do that.
And you can
Speaking
also
of-
donate money regardless.
True.
Speaking of, while we're on this boat, are there any donations? I realize we've been kind of talking a lot about this run.
Unfortunately, there has not been any donations. I would love to
I see.
see donations come through.
Yeah, come on, chat, step it up.
Go on.
So, as we saw in the shop, talking about donations a bit, obviously this was a bit of a backup run, so there aren't any donations for this run. But in that shop, we see the boatman of the underworld, Charon. After you've... I'm trying to... Oh, I've looked at the code, I should know this. After you've beaten the game once, there's a 22% chance of a sack icon, like a little sack that you can pick up in the shop. If you do, you get $300, or opals, which is very good. Charon doesn't like that though, and he makes you fight. Makes you fight him, regardless if you want to or not. All right.
Hermes is still not
being
nice.
kind.
I mean, epic special speed is something.
It's
Does-
something.
I don't know much about chaos. Does that actually
No one
help?
does.
I feel like it should help.
Again.
It's there are always better options than special speed.
Well, for sure.
So yeah, so if you fight Charon to get his loyalty card, which also makes future shop purchases 20% cheaper, as well as getting that free 300 currency. It is a super boss, and it is actually the donation incentive for my Hades run on Saturday. I believe last I looked at it was at $25 out of 500. So if you want to see me blow up...
It is currently sitting at $35 out of 500, so that'd be a good incentive to be putting your money towards.
So if you want to
Yeah,
see me
so-
fight the groaning burn
Great
man,
for that.
phrasing included, be sure to donate money before Saturday, before the end of my run. And he's meant to be hard. Spoiler warning, it'll be over before you know it.
It is not exactly our longest category.
In fact, I believe it is one of our. It is our shortest.
Excuse me, what about first boon percent?
Except it's not actually a category, Mr. Pancake.
It should be a category.
Lovely chatting with you, Nerdy dear.
There are lots of things that should be categories that aren't like pet percent.
So
And meg percent.
that one's long. As
It
a
is.
run, as one of the only runners of Meg Percent's too long. I would not want to verify a Meg Percent run. That sounds actually like the worst time in existence. Sort of, we've briefly gone on about it a little bit. It's a little bit complicated with weapons that don't really have a build. But for the sake of speedrunning, sort of every weapon has like a sort of a go-to, maybe an option or two, but usually just like one build that goes the fastest with it. And so we kind of devolve our runs in just kind of going for that build in particular. For Zag Shield, we saw to take the Artemis attack and just kind of wing the rest because it's not a particularly fast aspect. Sort of similarly with Chaos Shield, like we want Artie on attack. You'll typically accept like an Aphrodite or maybe an Athena. And you want like Zeus on the special and things like that. The next two aspects that we'll start getting into will actually have like a proper build, and we'll be going for duo boons, which every god has an applicable duo boon with another one. They each require certain prerequisites for certain prerequisite boons to actually unlock them in the run. And most of them are usable. There are certainly some that are not. We typically don't go for those. We'll go into get a little bit more detail on the next two runs, which will be pretty heavily focused on said duo boons.
Yes, for sure.
Yeah. These first two
Tom?
runs, I don't even think we've been offered a duo, so
No.
I do not believe we have. We are eligible for some here, the bunch that are potentially good.
Sorry, was that?
we're
No,
eligible
we're
for
not.
Humpty Blade.
But we are seeing Sudden Rush, which will make getting that Chaos attack, the special out a bit faster.
And here we see the other mini-boss in Elysium.
Asterius, we saw him before, but now by himself.
Definitely takes a little bit longer than that butterfly ball.
Especially when you're playing Chaos Shield.
Especially when you don't have damage.
Sorry, were you trying to say something about maybe incentives or earlier?
Just give me a quick sec.
Sure. So we don't actually
I
kill
did see-
Asterius here, because we still have to fight him in the final boss of Elysium. But when you do fight him in the middle of Elysium, you do actually lower his health pool. There's a duo burn.
There's the duo boon.
So Heartrend.
So the
Hmm?
I was going to explain how Heartrend works.
Yeah, go for it.
So Heartrend is the duo boon between Artemis and Aphrodite, and so Artemis's thing, like we've talked about, is crit. Aphrodite's thing, which we haven't talked about, is an effect called Weak, that makes enemies do less damage. And what Heartrend does is that enemies who are afflicted with Weak take more critical damage when you crit. And Pancake or Kenorah can remind me of what that exact amount is.
150% extra.
Yeah.
So it makes it go from 300% crit damage, or crits doing 300% damage to crits doing 400% damage. And there's another one. I took Rod because I know y'all would have wanted me to take Rod.
Rod is good on Chaos Shield.
Yes, but so is Jolted.
Yeah, but Rod.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
What is Rod, Pancake?
Would you like
Alright,
to explain?
so
Yeah, there you go.
Lightning Rod. It's a duo boon where if you see the cats sitting on the ground like you do right there, they start emitting little lightning blasts, which you can see on the screen. It can be incredibly bad to pick up Lightning Rod because it makes your cast harder to pick up, and there are times where there is a lake behind Hades during the Hades fight, and you can send your casts into the lake and then they won't come back. And on cast reliant weapons, that is a sad time. So that can be bad. But on weapons that don't really have much of an incredible build path, like Chaos or Rama Bow is another one, or Lightning Rod can actually just be like, you want any source of damage you can get, and it does actually do a substantial amount of damage.
Lightning Rod is a duo boon between, obviously, Zeus, Lightning, and the other half of that duo is Artemis, because along with doing crit things, Artemis also has boons that do cast things. And so that's why the duo with the Zeus is related to those cast stones.
Always a pleasure, Kenorah.
Let me know when there's a chance to do a few donations.
Absolutely, go for it. We're just going to be killing these bosses again. It'll be a lot slower than last time, and we'll actually see some mechanics. But go for it.
Rightio, so I've got an $18 donation from Arts Freak. Let's fight Sharon when I can watch, not commentate. We have a $20 donation from Allison. Please fight Sharon if possible. And then we have a big one, $110 from Maglev.
There it
Hi,
is.
Kenorah. I have 22% of the incentive for my category, which I believe you should know about.
So, Maglev is a dear friend of mine, who I cherish very much. He's also a Hades runner. He likes spending money, and I appreciate it, and it's going for a good cause. I told him not to buy out the entire incentive because I knew he would if I didn't tell him otherwise.
And notably, Maglev Train is the pioneer of the Charon % category, so
That too.
makes sense. Wants to see it
It
happen.
is very appropriate.
Hi Maglev, love you.
And then we also had a $10 donation from Grace. As the only runner of Meg %, go verify my run, Kenorah. Also, rob a
Also-
man of his life-saving son Saturday or I riot.
Excuse me, are you saying you're the only runner of Make %, Grace?
I think Grace is saying that because you're the only runner, you need to be the one to verify her run so that there can be two runners.
By that logic, Bright should do it because Bright was first. Anyway,
So it turns out the definition of only runner here is perhaps a bit flexible.
I never said I was the only runner. I said I was a runner. I'm pretty sure.
Well, Grace said they were the only one. Did the satyr just very nicely jump into your Meg?
Don't worry about it. No, I planned that.
Yes, calculated. Take
Mhm.
Hunter's Mark, please.
It is in fact incredibly easy to get the satyr to go where you want with your Meg. That always happens.
Spoiler alert, it doesn't. Alright,
I mean,
so...
Grace, even if it does say the only other, it's still not true because Bright. But yes, there are not many Meg % runners. It is a like 5-hour category or more.
it's like 7.5 to 8. Brief...
I thought you guys brought it down more.
I can't remember.
It takes a long time to build up the necessary relationship progression with Meg to get to the point where she is interested in having a fade to black with you.
2 seconds.
And it also requires a lot of luck. And hey,
Exactly.
Less luck than you think, thanks to code snippets I found, but yeah.
There's something good for Hermes.
Yeah, so Hermes has some excellent stellar options and some everything else. One of those stellar options is Greatest Reflex, which increases the amount of dashes that you can do as Zagreus. It scales with rarity. Boons can have a rarity between common, rare, and epic. There is also heroic, but you can't naturally find heroic boons. You have to upgrade them via certain sources, which we'll explain maybe a little bit. And so with Greatest Reflex, with an epic, no, with a rare Greatest Reflex, you get an extra 2 dashes, which dash is good. Dashes iframes on certain builds. Dashes damage. Not this build.
Death is fast.
Dash is also fast.
Unfortunately, not really getting much of the benefit of the mobility part of having extra dashes because we got it right before the final boss. But it's
We
still
got to
really nice.
Cerberus about 0.2 seconds before we normally would.
Big time save.
Unfortunately, we are seeing here Chaos doesn't do a lot of damage.
It really doesn't.
Especially when you don't get good Hermes boons.
And didn't get
It's definitely a
charged shot.
shame that the aspect related to the categorically and definitionally best god of the game is so sticky.
So, enemy attacks, typically mostly bosses, are a little bit of RNG. There's some logic behind them, like how many attacks of a certain type they can only do before they can do it again. But the worst one we see from Hades is the move dubbed Darkness, where he goes invisible for a little bit, which can only happen in Phase 1. Being invisible obviously means can't be targeted. Runs sometimes get defined by, like, world record runs can sometimes get defined by how many of these attacks we can see.
I love that you said Hades being invisible obviously means he can't be targeted, because as we saw in the run just before this one, an invisible final boss does not necessarily mean you can't fight the mid boss. In this game, it does.
Are running a bit low on Death Defiances. Play this last bit a bit safe. Especially considering we still have no damage.
Yeah, it's fortunately the thing about not having a lot of damage is fight takes longer and a lot more opportunities to get hit.
And for those who are unaware, when we see that Omni Laser attack, the correct move is to go hug your dad. Hugging your dad. The fastest way to
That was
play
a
video game.
15-minute IGT. This is why we don't like Chaos Shield. It's very slow.
Yeah. Luckily,
Especially when you just
I've got an
don't...
IGT faster than that.
When you
The next two aspects go a lot faster.
Yeah, when you don't get any semblance of a build, hell, even when you do get a semblance of a build, it sometimes it doesn't go fast.
Yeah,
So
to put it in perspective, a 3 weapons run would be finished in, but the world record 3 weapons run would be finished in about a minute from now.
Well,
RTA.
okay.
That run, I'm saying chaos is slow. This isn't a slight to you,
Yeah.
Kenorah.
Yeah.
Yeah, the other thing about a world record through weapons run is that you would not be running Zag Shield or Chaos Shield in it, so.
Yes. You will see how fast 3 weapons can go and beat when we see that soon.
On Saturday.
Yes.
So the next aspect we have here is Zeus Shield. What Zeus Shield's gimmick is instead of throwing... yeah, I like special more. Instead of throwing your shield and not being able to attack, you instead throw it out like a little bit of a Beyblade, and it kind of just keeps going out until you call it back, and it does some pretty hefty chunks. Still not the fastest shield, which we'll see next. But does open us up for a build where we go for the duo boon Merciful End. Who wants to talk about Merciful End? Arguably,
I'll talk about
arguably
Merciful End.
the best duo boon in the game.
I'm not sure it's arguable. Okay, so Merciful
Mirage Shot
End.
exists.
So fair. Mirage Shot Beowulf, maybe.
Yeah.
So, right now we have Doom on our special, which is it's a curse that takes a bit of time and then does a huge chunk of damage all at once. And then when you get the I think it's a bit more because we got an extra palm from that
Oh, we did.
nectar. What we get the other half of the god pool for Merciful End, Athena, who does deflecting attacks. You can get the Duo Boom Merciful End, which is every time you put a deflect effect on an enemy, immediately consume the Doom. So instead of having to wait there for like 2 seconds for the damage to hit, you can just make it happen immediately, over and over and over again.
And it turns
Suddenly
out
you're
Merciful
doing
End turns
huge chunks of
turns
damage.
damage over time from Doom into just damage.
and there's Athena.
And there's a natural Athena. You love to see it.
Always really nice to see that.
And
We can, of
unlike
course, force Athena later if we need to, but it's better to get her sooner.
And with Zeus Shield, unlike every other Merciful End using weapon in the game, you don't really care that much about getting Divine Dash, so you only really need the special or attack, depending on which way you like to play Zeus Shield, from Athena, and then just get the duo. I say just get the duo as if that's an easy thing to do. Any experienced Hades runner knows. No. Absolutely not. But Zeus Shield's a bit easier.
Yeah. The thing about Merciful End on most weapons is what you're going to do is have the Doom on your attack, and you're going to have Athena dash on, you're going to have the deflect on your dash, so that every time you do a dash strike, you're inflicting the Doom with the weapon and then immediately proccing it with that dash. You also have to get the Athena special, though, in order to even get the duo boon in the first place, because the dash won't qualify. But on Zeus Shield, because of the sort of way it, hangs out there spinning, it's totally viable to just have, like Kenorah does, Doom on the specials, the deflect on the attack, and you don't necessarily need to be proccing it with the dash.
Yeah.
So, sort of as we mentioned earlier, every duo boon has a very certain specific set of prerequisite boons. For Merciful End, while it is Ares and Athena boons in general, yeah, no, I need that more. Unfortunately, buying the Chaos, but they're not being able to take it. Shops in this case are a lot better than Chaos Gates on this particular build that really wants this boon. So from most duo boons, it's just kind of like a core boon and a core boon from both gods individually. For certain ones, like Merciful End, that has actually had to be nerfed a little bit. It requires either one of the attack or special of Athena and the attack or special of Ares. Will we see it? And
there's Merciful Ends. You are very
Very nice.
happy to see it before a Fury's fight. It's gonna make this fight. You're gonna see they're gonna die fast.
So we didn't have damage
Real
before.
quick.
We have damage now.
Yeah, bit quicker than the last time.
This is a lot more like the damage you want to see in a Hades speedrun.
This is what I enjoy about Hades speedrunning, is when you get a really strong build and you just shred everything.
So the hammer we got earlier is called Pulverizing Blow. And what that does is that usually the shield attack has a bit of a knockback to it. What Pole Blow does is that it takes away that knockback, but in return it makes your standing attacks, which doesn't include your dash strikes, unfortunately. Your standing attacks attack twice, which means when we have a giant Doom Shield sitting on top of the enemy, and we standing attack on top of the enemy with our deflect attacks, we are now deflecting twice in quick succession while applying the Doom kind of constantly with the special. And it leads to this.
Damn it.
Yeah, could take a dash, going for a roll here, taking special speed, and getting another Eurydice offered, which is really nice. Any free room is good. As we, the common saying goes in Hades speedrunning, room luck matters a lot more than boon luck. You could be the strongest build in the world, but if you get a bunch of terrible combat rooms, you're gonna be slow.
We see Kenorah taking the option to level up 4 random boons, which did hit the Doom, which is the one we really cared about it hitting. Because as you, especially since we have a common Doom, so we want to pump that up to just get more Doom damage.
Didn't Ambrosia the Doom. SMH.
Yeah.
No
Pumps.
gambling.
We have a lot of boons.
Yeah, we do.
Fortunately,
Oh.
can't
Didn't-
pick up that Ares. It would be
didn't
nice
mean
to
to.
see Impending Doom.
It would.
Impending Doom is a boon that makes your Doom do more damage, but it takes longer. But the takes longer doesn't matter because we're playing Merciful End, so it's just more damage.
Yep.
Fortunately,
And we see a
not able to pick up that boon.
mini boss that isn't Barge, and we see a very nice 5-witch Meg,
Forward.
Forward.
or 5-witch.
The
Look, I
secret
didn't know I
fifth
was
witch.
commentating Hades this morning, okay?
No, that's very valid.
And the secret 5th witch. But there's a little bit of technique involved in getting the witches lined up and getting Meg lined up with them to hit all of them. But
With the right
implemented it
strategy,
quite
it's
well.
pretty consistent.
Yeah.
Clearing out. Also taking the Artemis here. I'm assuming we, didn't have enough money to purchase a boon in the end shop, so even if there was an Ares in there, wouldn't have mattered.
Also one of pressure points. So pressure points is a boon from Artemis that it gives you a smaller amount of crit chance, but it's crit chance that can be applied on everything rather than just a core boon slot of Artemis. Critting is very good, especially on things that were not really like intentionally meant to crit naturally. As you can see, our Doom is doing quite a lot of damage. Imagine if it did 3 times that amount of damage. And that's essentially that is fundamentally what crit does.
And if we're able to pick up something like Hunter's Mark later, that will turn that 2% into functionally much, much more than that. Because once we get a single crit off, we'll start to see that Hunter's Mark pinging around, increasing our crit chance.
Pink heads are annoying. Does anyone want to quickly explain Lenny heads?
Alrighty, so there's a bunch of different variants of Lurny heads you can see. Each has their own attack, and there are different types both for the main head and the side heads. So here, we have the main head. We have
There's the
blue,
Lurny attack.
Lurny attacks. Blue Transitory Tider, which really likes to slam, and it's annoying. And then there we saw the pink heads, which shoot out waves of attacks, and I forget what the other one we saw was.
Green, which then shoots out little projectiles that turn into enemies.
I would say that's pretty much the worst combination you can get.
Yeah. So the benefit of literally every other Lurny head, other than there's also orange, which shoots out just pink projectiles. The pink ones, dubbed wave makers, they like to kind of sit back where they spawn and just shoot out those waves of projectiles. Versus literally every other Lenny head that likes to come in for a little bit and then do their gimmick. The whole benefit of Extreme Measures 2 is to kind of group those extra Lenny heads as much as we can. So you'll find it really annoying when the pink ones just don't want to move in the slightest.
Yeah, pink heads can be jerks.
Yeah. So here we are back in Elysium. I don't know if we really fully touched up on it. The game has 4-5 major biomes. That is just its core gameplay loop, just to go keep escaping through the underworld. You start at Tartarus in every single run. You work your way through Asphodel, and then into Elysium, and then Styx, and then ultimately you make your way to the surface, or Greece. For those maybe still in like the early parts of the game, you'll notice there's a slight omission to... there's usually a little bit more story after completing the game. Once you get to a certain point, the game kind of just writes up little stories that explaining how, in some manner, how Zagreus died in order to be able to return back to the House of Hell and continue on the game that we love to play.
That's what Kenorah is referring to, are those cutscenes after we defeat Hades, are telling us how Zagreus died this time.
Usually amusing.
Yeah.
Much faster Minotaur fight this time.
One of my favorites is Bears, where
Bears is quite good.
the narrator talks about how Zagreus just started to go on a stroll and suddenly bears, and then he died.
I'm partial to fungus myself.
I think...
I like the one where he steps on a rake.
Oh, yeah. I think it even, like, mentions
Kenorah,
the
don't
cartoony
let the
aspect
enemy
of it.
respawn. No!
Yeah, so Elysium enemies are particularly annoying. Oh, sorry, were you going to explain that?
Yeah, I was gonna say the gimmick of a lot of Elysian enemies is you have these essentially the souls of great warriors who have died, and then once you defeat them, they turn into these little floating eyeballs and try and go back to the weapon they dropped, and then they respawn and turn back into a full-fledged enemy. So you have to kill the enemy, and then you have to kill their little floating eyeball soul thing, keep them from respawn.
This is a bit
which
of a
will
rough
be even
combat.
easier with charge shot. Although none of these archers are wearing clothes, they are all naked, which is quite disappointing.
Yeah, naked bowmen, as we call them. Not really what you want to see, especially in a room this late. Luckily, the swordsmen do have armor. Which, to explain a little bit, each enemy has what we call, I believe the term is a challenge rating, or a challenge value, and overall the room has a challenge rating. And it'll spawn enemies until it meets that value. And you want a small amount of enemies, high challenge rating, so that it spawns fewer enemies, hopefully in fewer waves. This is not that. This is a lot of very small value enemies in a high value room. So,
Because the later you get in each biome, the higher the challenge rating is for that room. So, in the very beginning of Elysium, unarmored archers or swordsmen, you wouldn't need as many of them to complete that room's challenge rating. Later in Elysium, it requires quite a few to get to the point where it's spawned enough enemies.
A 34 flame wheels is, and then it gives you the pity armored chariot, which is worth a lot at the end. Just Hades, the video game, likes to it's never just purely mean to you. It'll always throw in a little something just to keep you going. It's like, I know you're feeling bad about what happened, so here.
That impending doom is going to add an additional 60% to our doom damage. That is going to be proccing instantly because of that first full end. We're not going to wait for it like we usually would.
You'll see the big numbers are now bigger numbers, and yeah, it's nice to have damage, isn't it? Unfortunately, the room luck has been pretty
Yeah.
Not great.
Doing the best with what I got.
Yeah, there's not really much you can do about that.
But it's certainly more fun to watch not great room luck with good damage than
not great room luck with bad damage.
Yeah, possibly even with good room luck with bad damage, because you're still not chunking through things.
Well, we're just kind of going through 6 again. Are there any more donations to read out?
No new donations to read out at the minute, but I'd like to point out that Hades donation incentive has massively skyrocketed to $213 out of 500. So that's 42% completed on that. So,
So you just need what, $37 to get it halfway?
yeah, something like that.
I mean, you already know that 15 of that, if not, I at least 15 of that is coming from me because of my awful swearing habits.
Yeah.
Are you gonna
and,
are you gonna donate for the swearing right after the HK rando too? That would be 30.
Yeah, you're right.
Actually, 45.
There we go. Yeah, I knew I was missing someone. Yep. Words are hard.
Yeah, and sometime later I'll also be putting some to that incentive, probably on the day it will be happening.
But for those in
Uh,
chat, don't think that this means that you don't need to donate as well, because you definitely do. Let's see
Yes.
those donations come in for Beyond Blue, our great cause.
There's one thing I love about the Hades community. They love to show up when it comes to doing good for charity, doing good in general.
Even when nobody knew they needed to show up today, they still showed up a decent amount.
Yeah, shout outs to the Hades community. It is, and here we have our first non-two stack, which finally lost that coin flip. Which is why we take the mini bottles first, because otherwise this would be a lot slower. Anyway, sorry. The Hades community is a lovely bunch of people. Super supportive, super helpful. We have a Discord that you can access through speedrun.com on the Hades page. Feel free to come in and ask any questions. Someone there is usually particularly adept at a particular aspect. So if you want to know what kind of builds to go on particular weapons, or just general advice regardless. There is also the Supergiant Games Discord, where there's a lot of Hades and other Supergiant Games discussion there as well. But if you wanted to get into speedrunning, we are a lovely bunch of people who... God, I have not found a better community than I have with the Hades one. It is absolutely lovely.
And yeah, if anyone's ever interested in speedrunning a game like Hades, which this is true for other games as well, note that everyone you might look up to the top runners and think that it's some mountain you can't climb, but they were all once in your position.
And since you were shouting out the Hades community there, Kenorah, I just want to say, so Insomnia, who just popped in, we were doing an HK rando race between Kenorah and Insomnia, and that went way faster than we expected, which is why we're now doing this. And so Insomnia had to pop off as we transitioned to this because he didn't want spoilers, having not played Hades yet, but did ask us to shout out the Hollow Knight community, which pretty much everything I think that we said about the Hades community is very true about the Hollow Knight community as well. They're a great bunch of folks as well, and since Insomnia wanted to give shout outs to them, and also asked me to shout out Kenorah. So Kenorah, you are now shouted out.
And
also, Palm, who was the other commentator for that all skills run that was earlier.
Yeah. And I believe said double shout out to Palm, so.
Yes.
There's double shout out.
Anyway, if you remember the last Hades fight, this one is 10 billion times faster.
A little bit more speed.
This isn't even my final form. Potentially. Don't want to jinx things too early.
Yeah. Hopefully we'll see a nice Beowulf run after this, but we will. We're running on modded, so we can just get paramed.
All right, Zeus shield complete. Shout out to Baj.
What's time looking like at the moment?
We are at 1 hour, 2 minutes, 45 seconds.
Sorry, I didn't hear that. That was...
Actually, I'll say it from my end because I've got the updated time. It's literally just hit 1:03.
Sorry, updated time?
Yes, that's updated time. 1:03.
He
why was there
doesn't have lag that Pancake and I have.
It's
right,
you've
got
what it is you've got stream lag, but I see it from my end, which without the lag.
Gotcha. Yeah.
But yeah. Then we've got the If things go well, fastest weapon for last. Beowulf Shield. Looks like we're going Flood Flare build, which is probably the smart play.
Yeah, as much as so, there's another way to build Beowulf. There's multiple ways to build Beowulf, depending on how luck intensive you want to go. The main duo boon that we're going to be going after is between Poseidon and Artemis. Poseidon's cast is good AoE, but not that great damage. And Artemis is decent damage, but awful range. There is higher power options that do require a little bit more luck. This being a marathon, I'm not gonna go for that. I might, maybe. Nope, that's a fit. Might as well.
Fish!
Whoop.
Long
Instant Zagreus.
fish. Perfect catch.
Very nice. It wasn't that long of a fish.
It was a
There's
reasonably long.
There's a glitch where when picking up the boon, Zagreus can decide to fish instead. In a marathon, when Zagreus decides to fish, you just let him finish fishing. You get a perfect catch.
Cast exchange. Cast exchange.
Cast exchange happens in Asphodel, or at least post Mirage Shot. But that is sort of the line. Anyway, so the little gimmick of Beowulf Shield is that instead of shooting out your cast stones like you've been seeing me do throughout the run, instead Zagreus will kind of load them into himself, into the shield. We'll say the shield. And when he does that little bull rush attack, at the end of it, it sort of expels out that cast's energy into a little blast that you see after I load them in. Beowulf drastically changes how casts work, and with that, kind of causes many bugs.
A lot of bugs. So many bugs.
So many bugs. We didn't
So you
really.
could've gotten, if you gotten cast exchange, you could have picked up another Poseidon here. Unfortunately, the game didn't give it to you.
So, to explain this cast exchange stuff that's being talked about, like Kenorah said, we're going for a duo boon between Poseidon and Artemis that'll greatly increase our damage. And so we need to have two boons, one from Poseidon, one from Artemis in order to get that. The more powerful cast that Kenorah is not running with is from Aphrodite.
Oh, I didn't even see the
And so,
It was
Natural Artemis. So there is a strategy where after we get Mirage Shot, the duo boon we're going for, we then try and get an exchange, because there is a small chance whenever you pick up a boon that a god will offer you a swap from a boon you already have to, instead of having Poseidon on your cast, to have Aphrodite on your cast. And so that allows
the rarity by one.
Yeah, it'll also make it a better version of that. So it's a very high roll strat. So that's the hypothetical that's being discussed. It may happen, but
Probably won't.
it's not, we would say, considered a it's definitely a high roll. It's not likely to happen
In a
on any
world,
given run.
in a world where you can just reset, it's not even the optimal play there. Usually, you would just hope to
You
see
just go back
Poseidon
and
and Athena, Poseidon and Artemis. There's too many gods with A's. I want to take that Chaos. So Chaos is actually really, really good on cast builds. There's some particularly nasty in a good way, cast related boons that you can get from Chaos, including upping the count of your cast stones, which should pretty
It's good. It's a good thing.
yeah, intuitively that's a lot of extra damage. You can also get, as we kind of mentioned earlier when I took a thing to increase my attack damage, you can also get those just sort of flat bonuses to core boons on your casts, which is one of the only ways just to get flat damage boosts. Very, very good.
Alrighty, now we're switching to Artemis Keepsake, and we're going to get it and hope for a Mirage Shot. We are going to pray very hard. Chat, please pray.
So something we
Hey,
didn't.
do you want to? I aligned over that. Somebody want to talk about what Mirage Shot will actually do?
Love that sulfur smell.
I was going to mention it when we get it, but I suppose we can talk about it
We're gonna
now.
be too busy freaking out when we get it. So
That's fair. Alright, so Mirage Shot is a boon that, with every cast, it releases a second cast as well alongside it, which in the description it says that cast deals 30% of the damage of your main cast. On most weapons, that is true. On Beowulf, it is not true. The second cast does exactly the same amount of damage as the first one. It's insane. Mirage Shot on Beowulf Shield is completely broken. It's so much damage.
And hopefully we'll be able to get to showcase that a little bit. It also, because it is just sort of like an extra, like, lump of damage after the end of it, it also tears through enemies' armor. Because the first shot will break that armor, and then the second shot will just do damage to the health, and if it's on Beowulf, if it destroyed the armor in one hit, it's also just gonna destroy the health in one hit, because usually the enemies have more armor than they do health. Also, I believe armor provides a little bit of damage reduction as well.
Are we missing our mid-shop here?
Very potentially.
that is an Asphodel thing that happens.
There's something.
Yep.
Yep. Alright, so Asphodel has a lot of rooms
It's two birds,
that
two witches.
can
I'll take
offer
that.
you mid-shop. Because the shops can only be found when there's something else to be offered alongside it. Only in 2 exit rooms. There are some 2 exit rooms that still can't offer shop because they're not coded that way. We did not see S room in Asphodel, but that is one of those rooms. And there's Mirage Shot, which
There
we're
it
very happy
is.
about.
It's a decent price to pay for missing.
But yeah,
missing
well,
mid shop.
and a fountain.
And then getting fountain,
Which we haven't
makes up
explained
for
yet.
it. But yeah, fountains.
We'll get
give you some health in their free room.
Yeah.
They're good. We want them.
And unlike the other free rooms that we see, you don't know that you're getting a fountain until you've entered the room. So it is a nice surprise.
It's also true with certain other free rooms you can see
That we don't
in
talk
IGP
about.
runs.
Because if we talk
I
about it, he
was
will
saying-
come.
Fetch me something.
I was talking about survival rooms, Kenorah.
Sure you will.
I was actually meaning survival rooms. That was what came to my
Can
head.
we
when
also
I
get
said
rush delivery?
that. No, we cannot.
No. The answer is no. Hermes has been
A
rude.
little rude. So seeing pink head learning as your main head, it actually is a really good thing, especially on weapons like Beowulf. Because learning heads that are on the main head can't be chosen by the seed to be the mini heads. So if we see pink on the main head, we know that we're not going to see it on any of the smaller heads, which is what we want to see.
Beowulf really benefits from that grouping thing.
Oh yeah. You stand here.
Yeah, I mean the cast takes up like 50% of the room, so
So you see
quite.
those 3 learning heads just vanished.
and no learning pack this time either.
And we get the classic flood flare on the end of the screen. Just, I always love that.
Wish we knew the cause of that, other than just it being flood flare and it being a little buggy, but alas.
Worth it.
Seeing an Ixion in there in the wall, and also getting a Braid of Atlas, which gives us 50% cast damage. That was a pretty nice well.
So the keepsake that Kenorah just put on there is the hourglass from Kenorah. And so what that does is the items that you find in the well normally last for some number of encounters or rooms, and it greatly increases. I believe it adds 8.
Yeah, that max level
Adds-
grants 8.
Yeah, so these items will last us a lot longer, which is very nice. We got items that increase our cast damage and also increase our attack damage. And the attack on
And we are
Beowulf
also
is,
getting a plus cast from that chaos we just picked up.
yeah,
Once this chaos burst is done, so we're gonna be
very
sitting
nice.
pretty. We're gonna be doing a lot of damage.
And the extra attack damage on Beowulf is good because it Beowulf
Thunder flare
just using
exchange.
attack does good. Thunder Flare is what we would call stinky.
Bad. We would call it bad. Unfortunately, not seeing a replacement there. It's the wrong time, video game. We do get butterfly ball though, and the Meg did not hit, but doesn't really matter too much. Butterfly ball's still gonna die very quickly.
I mean, Beowulf is
Geometry.
basically like a Meg.
This geometry is proving to be an issue.
So,
Geometry is Beowulf's main weakness.
yeah, I was gonna say, while bosses are not Beowulf's main enemy, unlike some aspects, geometry sure is, as we've already seen.
Especially when you don't have charge shot,
Yeah.
which maybe we'll pick up here. I hope. Yeah, you can see this is just shredding through health bars.
And once we get to 6, where the rooms are really small, you're going to see this cast just taking up basically the entire room.
Game, that is not the
quite
thing I
nice.
told you to give.
We are seeing just like gobs of.
And
this
there
item.
he is.
Oh,
Yeah.
come on.
So he is our
I
boyfriend.
Thanatos.
Look,
I only have a little time.
It is Thanatos, the god of death.
so we mentioned our partner Meg earlier. This is our
No.
other partner, Thanatos. And sometimes our boyfriend comes and checks in on us at work. And
And we don't like it when he does that.
Not an RTA.
unless we're running IGT,
In which case, we
so
really
you'll
like
see
it when he
that
does that.
the timer in the top right has stopped. So if we were running on that IGT timer, this would be very good. But because this is a real-time category, it's not good.
Not only do you have to deal with, you know, just the general waiting around, it also ups the challenge rating of the room. So there's even more enemies. That's slow.
And the way Thanatos works, Thanatos is worse in games or in rooms later in the biome. And so seeing Thanatos in the second to last chamber in Elysium is not great.
Not fast.
But not as bad as
Kind
being
of makes it up with the 34 patty, but
Eh.
Yeah.
kind of. Again, when the game is mean to you, sometimes it'll throw you a bone in the very next.
A lot of jerky you got there, Kenorah.
Sure is.
Yeah, this attack's gonna be doing a lot of damage. But yeah, I found when playing Hades, if you ever say, I think this run is dead, but I'll continue it if I get a Miracle X, you will get that thing and then the run will be fast enough. Anyway, yeah, goodbye, bosses.
The other
Charging would be nice soon. Thank you. We
other
don't-
duo boon that Kenorah picked up there was Sea Storm, which is weird on Beowulf.
Yeah, so what Sea Storm does is any knockaway effects get a little amped up by a little Thunderbolt by our friend Zeus.
And the knockaway effects are like Poseidon's thing, right? So,
Yeah, Poseidon's thing. It does also count for things like Sword Special, which applies a little bit of knockback. Shield Attack, which is what we're honestly going to see at most here. The problem with Flood Flare is that while it does actually do enough knockback to activate the threshold, it very specifically is not allowed to activate Sea Storm. Which is less of a bug and more of just kind of a developer intended, but something we don't really understand why, considering normal Poseidon does.
Yeah, it's especially bogus because Blood Flare is... The reason we got Sea Storm was because of having Blood Flare. It was the prerequisite that allowed us to get that duo boom. it unlocks the duo boon, but it
But
doesn't.
it doesn't work. With that.
It doesn't proc it, which is sure
nonsense.
okay. Nonsense. But the nice thing is that we are running with a weapon that procs it anyway with the attack.
We are getting some tiny rat rooms. 6 rooms generally don't spawn in extra enemies unless you get tiny rat rooms, in which case it spawns in more tiny rats. We don't like the rats.
Don't be fooled though. It very much can potentially spawn multiple waves, and it's a very rare occurrence, and you absolutely hate to see it when it does. But it also very much does happen.
That's fair. But yeah,
we are
it is rats
seeing the way
o'clock.
that
we
AoE
do not
is.
like rats o'clock.
But it is
And,
nice to see that AoE just clean up the entire chamber.
I don't know if the guy in chat who predicted 3 2-sacks and 1 3-sack is still here, but good job. You are correct.
Yeah, honestly, while it is in our favor, my testing has, like, my practice has led to a lot of non-2 sacks, which I was a little bit cautious of with the marathon. But it
Got the bad luck out of the way. Good job.
yeah. Does that mean I just have the good luck out of the way now for when I'm doing Saturday's run?
You need to practice more with bad luck to make room for the good luck.
So as this is the final weapon, time will be coming up once we kill Hades in the second phase. Still got a couple health bars to go, but I will give you ample warning when that is close.
And we're also going to make our way through those health bars pretty quickly, given our build.
Yeah, dying very fast.
Yeah, so time is coming up the moment Hades' health bar reaches 0. Which should be coming up soon. And time.
Time.
Honestly, an 8:14 is, like, considering how awful the Chaos run was, and getting a sub 9 on a marathon run is, I'm pretty happy with that. For not getting
Yes, that was
Aphrodite
good.
cast.
Okay, well, fine.
Done with time.
The Thanatos.
New record on
did
the
not.
save file. That's a good
Nice.
point. I got Thanatos. Anyway.
Any final shoutouts?
This has been Hades. Tune back in Saturday at 4:55 p.m. For 3 weapons, which is a slightly different category. You'll be seeing 3 of the, like, the 3 of the meta aspects, Beowulf included, rather than just 4 aspects of a single weapon. 3 of which are kind of hot garbage. 1 of them is good. Hope to see you all there. Thank you, Artsy, Freak, and Pancake for both commentating the race and this surprise shower. And shoutouts to the Hades community. All of you are lovely, and I love you and cherish you so very much. And I can't wait to run through weapons on Saturday.